We are very honored to have a presentation on family counseling and health. Our speaker is Ms. Tammilee Jules. She is a counselor with experience working with individuals, families, and couples. And she has worked closely with individuals experiencing family and marital disconflict. Okay, and she is a family counselor dealing with cognitive behavioral therapy, emotional focus therapy, and solution focused therapies to help families and couples meet their therapeutic goals to enhance their relationships and their quality of life. So this is all related to good health when we start talking about the quality of life. There are some information sheets on the tables. Feel free to take those, look at those, and use them to your benefit. So at this time, I'd like to introduce and present Ms. Tammilee Jules, who will be our speaker for today. Give her a warm Colesville applause.
Good morning. It's so good to be here with all of you this morning. And so I want to say thank you to Ms. Bernice, who connected me with Colesville United Methodist Church, and to Dr. Smith, who's been in communication with me, helping me to prepare for today, and to Reverend Dr. Armstrong for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you this morning on mental health and the importance of seeking the help that you may need or a family member may need. Can everyone hear me clearly? Good. And so, again, my name is Tammilee Jules. I am a graduate of Oral Roberts University in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I earned my undergrad in Christian counseling and my master's in professional counseling with a concentration in marriage and family therapy. Now, I've been married 31 years and raised my children, my youngest being 26 years of age. And as a parent, I've experienced lots of ups and downs in my own family, and watching my children deal with the struggles that they may have had, whether it was at school or with me and their father, in terms of the boundaries we set, the values we set for our homes, and their need for independence at some point, right? And so we had to find the balance. But in my studies, it really opened up my awareness to understand how important it is for families to be able to have clear communications around the need for each individual in the family. Everyone from the youngest to the oldest member of the family has a voice, and their needs are important and sometimes can be drowned out by the issues of maybe one in the family overpowering everybody else's needs. And so bringing the balance in conversation can really help a family be able to move forward from whatever the struggles may be. So I want to talk about, first of all, we're going to be talking about anxiety, and we're also going to be speaking about depression. Right now in our society, there are a lot of things influencing the way that we see ourselves, the way that we function daily, our experiences at work that may cause us to experience stresses that we struggle with, and then we either bring those stresses home, we bring them in our relationships, or just how we function or not function within our day. If we may find ourselves stuck. And how do we move from a place of feeling stuck to being able to move forward? Is anyone struggling with anything today in terms of stressors, work-related? I know I am, right? Finding my work-life balance, yes. sometimes overcommitting to things. Yes, yes. And that's so important to understand that even though we have the ability to do something, we should really pause and check our availability, right? Because we can overcommit and then find ourselves stressed out trying to meet the needs and expectations of others. One of the things that is good to remember is whatever I say yes to, I immediately say no to something else. Let's think about that for a moment. We find ourselves saying yes because we look and say, I'm able to do that. I have the skill to do that, but I haven't paused to look at my calendar and see how my yes is going to impact my schedule with my family or even my rest because I just quickly said yes to something. And so I would encourage you moving forward, if this is a struggle area for you, to take that time and be good to yourself and just ask yourself, how will this impact me in my plans to rest or to do something with my family or just to even follow through with a pursuit I may have, a personal passion pursuit that I want to accomplish, but because I'm so overwhelmed with meeting everyone else's expectations, I cannot now do the thing that I want to do. Okay? And so the goal of our counseling is really to help clients process their experiences, monitor thoughts, and manage emotions, and to find better coping tools, develop better communication and problem-solving skills for a better quality of life. Dr. Smith just talked about the quality of life. And if you are finding that you are wondering if I am experiencing a better quality of life, then look at the way that you may be feeling throughout your day. Do you feel rested? Do you feel that you have time to do some fun activities that you want to engage in? Do you feel that you have time to spend with your family, or are you just going to work when it's dark, coming home when it's dark, and going to sleep and repeating that cycle all over again the next day? This is your measure of looking at how you are experiencing a quality of life for yourself. And be honest with yourself in terms of what your needs are. How many of you feel that you are communicating well with your families, your spouses, on what your need may be? I see one hand, and okay, 2, 3, 4. Good. Good. Very good. Because it's important in relationships to be able to say what it is that you need. Sometimes family members may feel as though they're helping because they love you and they want to be there to help you to feel better or to do the things that they feel need to be done, right? But if you don't tell them what it is that you need, they're just working off of assumption. I think this is what is going to be best, and this is what you should do. But is it really the best thing for you? And so really feeling comfortable expressing what your needs are really helps the family to give the support that's needed for whatever your need may be. And so, as I was saying, graduating from Oral Roberts University gave me an opportunity to integrate spiritual and clinical together to be able to help. I know as a believer, we pray. I am a minister at the church that I attend, Victory Christian Church International in Gaithersburg. And before that, I was one of the deacons. And we work with families all the time. And so when we're praying with the families and we hear the needs of individuals or families, I really wanted the opportunity to do more than pray. Prayer is very powerful, okay? Prayer is also a part of the counseling approach depending on your belief system, okay? We incorporate prayer as well. But sometimes there's a greater need that's clinical. And even pastors are understanding that even with pastoral counseling, there is a need to know when to refer. Amen? I thought about an incident, and it stuck with me because, you know, you have people that come up for salvation. And when you take them to the counseling room, they begin to talk about what it is that they need. And how important it is for the counseling department, which they call it the counseling department, but it's really the department for salvation, right? But for that department to have the know-how to be aware in that space for certain words that's being spoken, certain needs that's being expressed, and knowing who to connect with, who to connect that person with, not just for discipleship, but for whatever they hear may be a greater need, okay? So this young man came in, and I want to tell this story to show just how important it is to be aware in our surroundings. Sometimes we're moving so quickly that we're not stopping and really asking, are you okay? We might just say, hi, it's good to see you. How's everything? But not really looking someone in the eyes and saying, are you okay? Really, are you okay? And hearing what that response is going to be and knowing what to do next. So this young man came in for salvation because on the pulpit, one of our ministers felt strongly and was drawn to this young man who was sitting in the congregation, about in his 20s. And he called him up and prayed over him because he felt the need to pray for him. So he went back for counseling and prayer. And back there, he spoke about an addiction to drugs. Okay? But when he left that room, he left with prayer only. And what stood out to me and stands with me today, the need for being aware and the need for going just a step further and knowing when to refer and knowing when to go to the pastor and say, we have a situation. What is the next steps? Is that young man, a week later, took his life. And so I thought about that and I said, you know, I felt like it was a missed opportunity because we talk about discipleship and the need for that. And yes, we can do that. But also meeting a person right at the point of their need. Because that's what Jesus does, right? Meet us at the point of our needs. And so for us having Christ within, but just being aware that Christ within helps us to be alert in conversation and being aware that every moment is a moment. Every moment is a moment. It's a moment for me to be an active listener. I'm here, I'm present in this conversation with you, and I'm hearing from you what you are saying to me. I'm not thinking about I need to get to the store before it closes at a certain time. I'm not thinking about I have clothes to wash. Come on, women. In here, you know, we can be several places in our minds, right? We can be sitting here talking to you, but right now we're thinking about the work we have at home to do, honestly. And so it's a practice. It's a new habit to create in terms of being aware in the space that you're in, even with your children. Our children are influenced by social media. They have other influencers and experts that they listen to, right? And think about it. They are at school for 6 or more hours in a day. That's a whole nother influence that you have. Speaking into your family, and maybe even going against the values that you have for your family structure. All of that is coming back in and influencing your household. So parents, do you remember, I don't know if any of you were raised and where the family would sit at the table to eat dinner together? We sat together, and that was a time for parents to really talk to the children and hear what was happening during the day. But somehow we've gotten away from that. And everyone, including parents, are sitting in the front of the TV and having dinner, right? Or even children are eating dinner on the go. And so there's no more conversation. And how do we know what's going on with our children if we're not talking? If we're talking at them, but if we're not listening, or if we're not in conversation with them. This time that they live in is a whole different experience. Where are the teens in the room? I see some teens. Teen? Yes. So are you familiar with this show? It's an old show, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. Yes. And so you know there's a part of that song, Parents Just Don't Understand. Yes. And so even teens are looking at parents like, I hear what you're saying, and it may sound like the parent is trying to withhold fun from you, but parents are talking in terms of, how can I protect my baby? How can I protect them from things that I see happening out there? And the children are looking like, parents just don't understand. They don't understand the time that I'm living in. They don't understand what I am seeing on social media. They don't understand how I'm trying to fit in and find my place in my group and, who will accept me in this circle. And I'm trying to figure out what my next may be. Even us parents now, think about when you were a teenager, where you may have been thinking, and thinking your parents just don't understand. But that's a place of just trying to find independence where parents may have also some rigid boundaries for you, right? And trying to find the balance of how do we diffuse the rigid boundaries so that as our children are trying to find independence, there's a balance where they're respecting the values of the home, the standards that you've set, and even looking at this diverse congregation here, it reminds me of, even in my studies about cultural sensitivity and also counseling across a lifespan, right? Because we have children, right? We have those who are in their early 20s, 40s, looking at retirement, the elderly. It's counseling across the lifespan. And each part of that has a different need. Some cultures, and I want to speak to cultures because there are traditions and values in cultures. The way you were raised is really the influence on how you approach life and how you think. You even bring your cultural values into your relationships. Have you been at home with you and your husband? How many married people are in here? And so you may think that is one way that you put things into the oven. We put it in with foil paper, but no, because that's not how my mom did it. There was no foil paper in you imagine the things that you argue about, right? But that's because of your upbringing. And so you bring your upbringing, your values, the traditions of your home into your relationships. And how do we balance that? How do we give ourselves permission as a couple to come up with our own rules for our families, right? What works for us as a couple? Not what Mama those did, but what are we doing and how are we agreeing to raise our family? A lot of the conflict come from our upbringing. But also, when I'm sitting before a client, I'm mindful and aware that this might be someone of a different culture. Everyone in here that is black may not be American, correct? I can't assume that you're sitting before me and you're black, that you're an American. I have to be sensitive to that. And so in therapy, I cannot come in with biases. I can't come in with my values, right, and my beliefs and force them onto you. I am a Christian who counsels. I counsel all belief systems, okay? Because Christ in me allows me to do that, to be relatable to anyone that's sitting in front of me. He loves everyone, and your pastor talked about that this morning. That's a part of the spiritual side of it. Acceptance and grace, love and reconciliation, right? The love of God. And the clinical part of it is understanding what the cause of my anxiety is, what the cause of my depression is, and being able to find solutions for that. At the core of anxiety is fear. But of course, I'm here at the church, and we know that 2 Timothy 1:7, some of you may know the scripture, for God has not given us a spirit of fear. But what has God given to us? A spirit of love, power, and a sound mind. And a sound mind. And so if we're ever thinking as believers, what is the will of God for us concerning our thoughts, our mind, and for that to be healthy and whole? Well, he said it. What he gave to us was love, power, and a sound mind, and not fear. I want to share the story with you. It was a study done with this baby, 9 months old, and they call him Little Albert. Now, this psychologist, John B. Watson, and his graduate student, Rosalie, came up with this study that they wanted to do, classical conditioning, that fear is learned behavior. They took this baby boy and sat him and put a white rat in the front of him and a lot of other fuzzy animals. Well, sitting there, he was not afraid. This baby didn't sit there afraid. But what they did was, behind him, every time they presented one of these, the white rat and the fuzzy animal, they would make a loud sound behind this baby. And eventually, this baby became terrified of white rats and any fuzzy animal. So fear was learned by this baby boy. The only thing is that they did not reverse that study by desensitizing this baby boy to what they induced on him. But in therapy, we have the opportunity to help individuals move from a stuck place, wherever that may be, a life event, a loss of a loved one, loss of a friend, loss of a job, all of those adjustments that people may struggle with, relationship issues, communication, domestic violence. People are dealing with things. And if you grew up in a culture where it's taboo to speak about what has happened in the family, has anyone been raised that way? We don't talk the family business? Okay, well, I grew up in a culture like that. I am from the Caribbean, okay? And in my culture, we could not speak about what was going on in the family. You dare not mention that you needed mental health help, okay? Because how it was looked at on in my culture, and still is a struggle, is that the whole family must be crazy. The whole family. So it's not the individual, but the whole family is assessed, bringing shame on that family in community. But I want you to know that it takes a family support for an individual to come into a place where they can be healed in the process. They need family support. They cannot do it by themselves. And so I would encourage you within your families to have these discussions, and also to know that there is help available. You don't have to be stuck. You don't have to feel hopeless, and you do not have to feel afraid. There is help. You can speak to a psychologist, or you can come to a therapist and know that you will have a safe space to be able to talk about whatever the experience may be. PTSD, grief, whatever it may be, and feel safe that you will be able to process through that experience and be able to move forward. So again, how you think is how you will respond in your life. Let's say that together. How I think is how I will respond. That's right. Because as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Right? But Philippians 4:8 says, whatever so things are true, whatever things are honest, whatever things are just, whatever things are pure, whatever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things, right? With anxiety, the thought is always that there's danger somewhere. And the important part of that, of coping with anxiety, is being able to validate if what I am thinking, is it true? Is it true? Is this my perception, or is this truth? Is this my opinion, or is this a fact? That this is happening. I have to validate my feelings. If I don't, I will find myself isolating, avoiding people, right? Or just really fearful, having panic attacks wherever I go. I'm only thinking on something is going to go wrong here. And so this is how you have social anxiety. Okay? Always validate what you are feeling and what you are experiencing. And this is how you manage your emotions. Monitor your thoughts. Is there anyone in here that journal? Are there? Okay. So one thing that you can do is keep a journal and just track, what am I eating during the day? And when I ate that, how did I feel after I ate that particular thing? Right? We don't think about that. Sometimes the energy levels go up, and sometimes my mood shift. Why is that? If I monitor what I'm eating, if I monitor my sleep patterns and see how much REM sleep I'm getting, really? Or am I just laying in the bed? Am I really resting? Because rest is important. If your sleep pattern is off, then you feel that in your body. Headaches, dehydration, muscle aches, all of those things, that's your body speaking to you. You need rest. Self-care is very important. Can we say that together? Self-care is very important. That means that when I'm penning in everyone else and I'm doing for everyone else, we pour out to everyone, but sometimes we don't pen ourselves in. We write ourselves in with a pencil, and then we begin to erase to fill in with something else. But I need time to walk and smell the flowers and to admire creation and the beauty of what God did with them. You want to know how to put your clothes together? Look at some flowers out there and see how he blended those colors together, right? And we're trying to figure out what to do, but we're so busy moving fast. We're just running. We're waving on the way. Hi, because we're on to our next. That we're not stopping and being in the moment with ourselves. If we don't put the oxygen mask on ourselves first, you may find that you may just black out while you're trying to help everyone else. Why am I in the hospital bed now? How did I get here? And so take care of you by giving yourself permission to rest. Say that with me. I give myself permission to rest. On the table, I left with you as anxiety checklist, also depression checklist. Sometimes you just don't know what's going on in your body, but depression can be situational, environmental. It also can be biological, right? Things can be happening in my body in terms of thyroid dysfunction. There can be illnesses that I'm dealing with, medical illnesses that causes depression. There are situational things, okay, loss of loved one, loss of family, loss of jobs that can cause depression, but I need to know what's happening. And you can feel stuck and helpless if you don't know what's going on. If I don't know the cause, then I can't find the solution. If I don't know that resources are available for me, then I feel stuck, I feel helpless. And so I included on there resources for you to be able to use. And so I want to go back to the teens. Teens, can you wave your hands, teens? She's laughing. So even for parents to be aware of what's happening with the teens, look at what's, changes in either their behavior, okay? Look at what's happening in terms of grades at school. Look at friend groups, what's going on with there. Has there been a sudden change in friend groups? Hygiene, isolation. Look at those things. And talk to your child to listen and understand. Make an appointment, again, with their doctor or therapist to explain more about depression. If you feel that any of the symptoms on the checklist that I left with you, you're seeing in your child, okay? So signs of depression in teens are a negative outlook. It may be hard for them to see good parts of things or good parts of themselves. Low energy, low interest, lack of interest in school. Changes in sleep. They may either sleep more or stay up, unable to sleep, right? Changes in eating, doing poorly in school, grades dropping, or risky or harmful behavior, okay? Thoughts of unaliving themselves. And so I want to share this one story with you. My daughter, and this is very close, my oldest daughter, began doing some of those things, isolating herself and just really shying away from any type of social activity. And here I am in school, and about the busyness of ministry, my daughter got up one morning and was going to work. It was raining, and my parents were visiting from the Bahamas. That's where I'm from. And we were going to meet with another lady who was having some marital issues. So here I'm thinking I'm going to help someone else, right? Not being aware of what was happening in my own home. Do you hear what I'm telling you? In my own home. My daughter's sitting on the sofa, and usually she would take the bus to go to work, not far from our home. And I'm preparing, and she says, okay, Mom, I'm getting ready to leave. But she sits back down, and she's writing in a notebook. Right in the front of me, writing in a notebook. I'm not thinking that something else is happening here. She comes, walks out the door after hugging me. Now, mind you, my daughter is not affectionate like that, so she doesn't come and hug me. So this is something different. Should have been aware that something different is happening in this moment. She hugs me. Goes out the door, comes back and hugs me again. Jesus. Not being aware in the moment what's happening. I go to this meeting to help someone else. Get a call from her job, she did not show up to work. It's pouring rain outside. I'm calling her phone. Imagine, parents. Imagine. You don't know where your child is. They're not at work, and my mind is thinking all kinds of things now. Calling, no answer. I got home, And thank God she was back at home on my dad's lap, crying her eyes out. And she said, I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it. She tried to jump out the window. She tried to stab herself. Oh, but the grace of God. We pray over our children covering. But it's so important. I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be aware, to be in moments with your family, to sit and talk to your children, because they're dealing with things in school that you're not there to see. We can't be there to protect them in every moment, right? They're trying to understand how to fit in. They're being bullied. We can't be there for every moment, and we can't be so busy that we're not aware of what's going on. That's a very hard thing for me to visualize, because I know women whose children have been successful to unalive themselves. And I thank God that He prevented that, to give my daughter another chance. Now she has her own counselor, sees her own psychologist. She's a manager in her job. She's getting ready to graduate from college. Because before, she was writing, I don't see hope. I don't have a future. She could not see beyond the moment she was in. Let me see the wives. Can I see your hands? Mm-hmm. Now, I know you love your husbands, right? And we can overlook our husbands being depressed. Do you know that men go undetected for depression? And it doesn't show up with them just being sad. It shows up in anger, right? Aggravation, just agitated, excessively working out, right? Risky behavior, gambling, right? Substance abuse. Paying attention to those things, because men don't just come out and say, I'm depressed. And I think my husband felt comfortable to do that with me because he knows the field that I'm in. But one day he said to me, don't you think I just want to lay on your shoulders and cry? I was shocked. I was stunned, because I'm looking at my strapping husband and thinking the strong person, that the whole family is dependent on. But we don't think about the weight that the men carry in the home, the responsibility they have. Be aware, wives, okay? So talk about counseling across a lifespan. We're talking to the men. We're talking to the children. We're talking to the wives, right? Because when your children are gone and you become an empty nester, did anyone talk to you about what it will feel like when your children leave the home? No one had that conversation. I don't even know. I had no clue how I would feel when my children left the home. But that's an adjustment, okay? And so I just want you to be aware that help is available, okay? Therapy is not scary. It is a safe place. We've been trained to listen, to help, also to be culturally sensitive, and to counsel across the lifespan. To our elderly in the room, this is a time where you're dealing with other things, health issues, hearing, those things, finding relevance in the family unit, right? Some elderly are discarded in the family. And that can be a very lonely place. So 85, it says, the CDC says 54.7% of elderly at the age of 85 unalive themselves. Can you believe that? That's a serious thing because of loneliness. I have no relevance here anymore. So being aware and honoring the elderly. They have wisdom to share and experience, right? and so much love to give. Elderly, to the elderly, you can be involved in volunteering. Don't think that what you have is not needed. It's so needed for the next generation to be able to volunteer and to hear your voice in the room, okay? And the last thing that I'm going to touch on is called seasonal affective disorder. It's called SAD, okay? And so SAD, seasonal affective disorder, is a type of depression that's related to changes of season. Okay? And it begins and ends at about the same time every year. So SAD, your symptoms start in the fall and continue into the winter months. And then, you know, you may feel your energy sapped and making you feel moody. I don't know if anybody's experiencing that, right? But be aware that could be happening. SAD causes depression in the spring and early summer. And here are some symptoms. Feeling depressed most of the day, nearly every day. Losing interest in activities you once enjoyed. Having low energy. Having problems with sleeping. Experiencing changes in your appetite or weight. Feeling sluggish or agitated. Having difficulty concentrating. Feeling hopeless, worthless, or guilty. Or having frequent thoughts of death or suicide. Okay? So, as I take my seat, I just wanted to share with you how important it is to, one, be aware of the environment you're in, how it's impacting you in your day-to-day, how your busyness can impact your family, missing moments. And I know that none of you want to miss a moment with a family member and have a regret afterwards. And also, taking good care of yourselves. Don't neglect your self-care. It's very important for your mental health. If we are not monitoring our thoughts and managing our emotions, we show up to work that way. We show up in ministry that way. We show up with our families that way. And we want to make sure that we are restoring balance in our lives. And that's the message I want to leave with you today. And you have information on how you can reach me after. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Does anyone have any questions? Yes.
How can you combat seasonal affective disorder? Because I've had it for years.
Yes, that's a good question. You and since you, when you know that you, again, we talk about when you know the cause, then you can take some preventative measures in preparation, right? So if I know at a certain time of the year I'm feeling sad and I find myself sleeping more, right, and not wanting to engage more, I can plan really some other activities to do around that time that take me out of the home. I can do some other things that's going to engage me so that I don't feel isolated, but I'm actually involved in something that's meaningful during that time of the year, right? And even hobbies and things that you can find to be involved in for your self-care, travel, journaling, family trips, family meetings, things that you can do together, crafting. Think about things that is going to keep you engaged. And really monitor again how you're spending the day to see what times of the day that you're really feeling like your energy is zapped. What am I doing just before then, right? How am I spending those moments? What am I eating? How am I sleeping? What are my thoughts during those times? So I know how to combat that before I slip totally into a depressed mode. So awareness of what's happening, paying attention to my body. Where am I feeling aches, pains? Where am I distracted? And so that you know what you need to do. But we could talk about that some more. Okay? You're welcome. Any other question? Yes.
I know you were talking about like how parents can like support like their kids struggling with mental health and stuff, but like as a teenager, like a lot of like my friends, like people I know, like struggle with mental health too. So like, how as somebody's friend can you like help support them with their mental health issues and like the depression that they're struggling with?
That's a very good question. So, one of the things that when I spoke about my daughter, it was one of her friends at school that took her to the school counselor, right? You have counselors at school. If you have a friend that's sharing with you that they're struggling with a situation at home, right? Or they're struggling with mental health, or talking to you about unaliving themselves or causing harm to themselves, whether that's cutting or anything like that, then your friendship is getting them to the help that they would need. Letting the school counselor know so that they can get the support and resources, because then the family will be brought in and awareness will be shared so that everybody can help. Okay? I looked at the family going up for baptism today. I said, look at that village. That's a whole village of support. And we all need a village of support. We can't do it by ourselves. So don't think that you have to sit alone. Tell someone, talk to someone, even if it's one friend that you have, that you can be transparent with. Hey, I don't feel good today. That one friend will you know what? Can you come over and just sit with me? Be honest. Be honest. We've gotten into the habit of saying, I'm okay. But really, wives, think about that. Your husband said, what's wrong with you? Oh, I'm okay. You're not okay because you're mad about something, right? But you're not communicating it well. And so we want to practice clear communication so that we can get the help that we need, the support that we need. Are there any other questions? Well, thank you so much again for having me. Thank you, Pastor Armstrong.
On behalf of our pastor and the congregation here at Colesville, Ms. Jules, I'd like to thank you for sharing this information with us, basically on relationships, our own self-relationship, our own relationship with our families and our children, and with our friends. So thank you very much. This has been very enlightening and encouraging. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Okay, thank you. And to you, I'd like to thank everyone here today, and I'd like to especially thank the worship committee for this event of diversity sharing, dress and food, and this has been a tremendous aspect to add to our second Sunday Health series. So thank you to the worship committee and to you for being here today. Next month, we will have one of our own, Barbara Barger, will be speaking on mental health services available in Montgomery County, and will be sharing as a follow-on to this where we can go and what we can contact if there are those of us in need or those of us who have people we know in need, and where they can go for resources and for services here in Montgomery County.